morning, everyone, and welcome to Faith Covenant Fellowship. As we continue with the service, we just want to take a few minutes to let you know about some of the good things going on right here at FCF. If you've made a decision to make Jesus the Lord of your life and want to get baptized, we'll be having more baptisms soon. If you are ready to get baptized or have questions, we encourage you to stop by the Welcome Center to get signed up. Connect groups are coming. What are connect groups? Well, when people ask me about our church, I say we're just normal people worshiping God. So connect groups to me are normal people getting together outside the church walls in fellowship, loving God through learning, praying, and breaking bread together. We are still looking for anyone interested in being a Connect Group leader or a host or both. The start time will get here before you know it. So if you want to lead or host, please sign up at the Welcome Center and I'll be in touch with you. Food Finders event will be on Monday, July 17th. If you would like to volunteer to help distribute food to those in need, please sign up at the Welcome Center or online at fcfnow.org. We want to remind you that the new Senior Bible Study will start a new session on Tuesday, July 18th from 12 to 2 p.m. We would love it if you would join us here for soup, sandwiches, and a great Bible study on the book of Esther. Sign up at the Welcome Center. Although Christmas is months away, we are already preparing for another successful Operation Christmas Child event. Starting in July, we'll begin collecting items, and those items are small stuffed animals, travel-sized board games, and shipping donations. Keep in mind that all donated items that we ask for should be in new condition and can be dropped off in the drop-off zone across from the Connection Cafe. You can also make a donation online or use an offering envelope to drop it in one of the offering boxes. Right after service, July 30th, we'll be hosting a Family Connect lunch. This will be a great way to get to know each other and connect with others. We've been blessed with a growing family, and we realize that you may not know the leadership team. So just to bring you up to speed, here is Pastor Ross, our lead pastor, Pastor Darrell, Congregational Care, Pastor Fred, Community Outreach, Ryan, Stephen, Jason, these are the elders. The 4th of July is right around the corner, and although we observe this day to celebrate freedom, we want to remind you of another reason why you are free. Check this out.
So Jesus said to those who had come to believe in him, "If you remain in my word, you are truly my disciples, and you will know the truth, and the truth will make you free." But they answered, "We are the descendants of Abraham. We have never been slaves to anyone. So how can you say we will become free?" You see, they answered Jesus in the same way we might. I mean, we're Americans, right? We live in the land of the free. We sing songs about it. We get together and have parties and fireworks, all to celebrate our nation's freedom. But Jesus was speaking of a different kind of freedom, a freedom that can only be found in him. He answered them, "This is the truth. Everyone who chooses a life of sin isn't free. They are a slave to sin. A slave has no permanent place in the family, but a son or a daughter, they belong forever. So if the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed."
That's all for the announcements. Again, thank you so much for being here. And now, let's get to the sermon.
Thought we were going to have a video for that. Bumper, no? Okay. We'll get started. Good morning, everybody. It's really, really good to have you guys here today. Today we're on part 2 of the sermon series, We Are Gathered Here. And last week, Ross did an awesome job talking about gathering for encouragement and how important it is for the church to encourage each other on a much regular basis. I'm not sure about you, but I was highly motivated as he was speaking through that sermon because I was pretty convicted. My personality, like in the moment, I am encouraging the people, but I don't take that initiative. So I had a lot of driving time this last week, and as soon as God put somebody on my heart, I texted him, or speech to text. I wasn't texting driving, but I just sent them something encouragement, and it just really did wonders. So good job, Ross. I mean, it's been a lasting message all week long. So as I mentioned before, we're on part 2 of the sermon series, and the title of this message this morning is called Gather for Rhythm. The word rhythm means a strong, regular, repeated pattern of sound or movement. As a matter of fact, we just went through some patterns of when the music was playing, and I want to try something with you guys. I didn't really practice this, so I don't know how well it'll go, but I need to get you guys, your blood flowing. So I want you, don't even stand up, just repeat after me, follow this. Just stomp your foot on the ground as I do. There you go. You hear that rhythm? Keep it going. Now we're going to do 2. Somebody beat me to it. Let's throw some clapping in there. We. All right, that's good. That's good. So, you see, there has to be some kind of rhythm, just like what we did, or else it would sound like a train wreck. And I did hear some of you guys, when Blessed is the Name, we were all clapping, and some of you guys just kind of fell off the wagon. But, the same thing goes for our very lives. If our lives are not in a good rhythm, our very lives could be a complete train wreck. So here's the big idea, the main message. A healthy rhythm forms healthy habits, and habits are powerful in shaping our lives. So let's talk about habits for a second. And these are a few examples, and I'll let you determine which are good habits and which are bad. Not getting proper sleep. I'm kind of guilty of that. Exercising. Picking your nose. I got to share this real quick. I was at a stoplight the other day, and I just happened to look back in my rearview mirror, and there's this guy, and he was he was knuckles deep, digging for gold. And I'm like, sir, why can't you just wait until you get home behind closed doors to do something like that? It was crazy. So my opinion, picking your nose is a bad habit. We have any nose pickers out there? Do not raise your hand. Somebody's like, oh. Overthinking and worrying, I'm really good at that. Unhealthy eating. When preparing this message, I was looking up good habits and bad habits, and man, there are tons of them. There's even some really quirky ones, but pretty much everything that we do is considered a habit, whether it's good or bad. Here's a quote from the Journal of Psychology. Habits are our brain's way of increasing its efficiency. Our brain turns daily actions and behaviors into habits, so we would do them automatically and without too much thought, thus freeing up brain power for other more important challenges. This strategy of our brain has wonderful benefits for us. It allows us to function better in life. Just imagine if you had to consider and ponder every single task or reaction. You'd be exhausted. So basically what they're saying is with our human brains creating habits, I mean, that's how God designed us. Everything that we do in our daily lives would be such a challenge. And this is my demonstration. I'm not going to mess anything up here, Doc. This is my car. And imagine you're driving and you're getting ready to make a right turn. By habit, you're probably going to switch hands, flip the blinker, and make your right turn. But imagine if you had to really think through that entire process. Like, okay, that's a right, so I think I'm going to change hands. Here's my blinker. If I push it up, I think that's a right. Yeah, that's a right turn. And then, okay, I'm turning, making that right turn. But could you imagine doing that, like showering or going to the bathroom? You truly would be exhausted going through all that. Now, I know some of you guys don't use turn signals, but that's for a whole different discussion. And speaking of turning, in your Bibles, turn to Acts chapter 2. And while you're doing that, I want you to think about some good spiritual habits, some good holy habits. And some that come to mind for me are prayer, reading your Bible, meditating on the scriptures, seeking the lost. That's be an awesome habit to be into. And making peace would be also a good one. So again, we're going to be reading through Acts chapter 2. And in verse 42, it highlights 4 habits that the early church was doing whenever they gathered together. So verse 42. They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to the fellowship and to the breaking of bread, and to prayer. Everyone was filled with awe at the many wonders and signs performed by the apostles. All the believers were together and had everything in common. They sold property and possessions to give to anyone who had need. Every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. And the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. So the early church knew something about gathering together, and we've been following that example, that model, for hundreds of years. So what I'm going to do is I want to break down these 4 habits that we just talked about, excuse me, so that we can understand them more clearly. Again, those are found in verse 42. So we have teaching, fellowship, breaking of bread, and prayer. So habit number 1 is teaching. When I hear the word teaching, I think more of like a classroom atmosphere where there's one person up front speaking and teaching to a group of people, and most Christians, that's the way they receive most of their teaching, is like that's pretty much what we're doing right now. But if we're following Jesus and doing the things that he did, we need to be teaching like he did. Jesus did preach to large crowds, but he often preached in smaller groups, was much more effective in discipleship. He knew the word, he spent time with others, he included them, he encouraged them, there we go again, and he loved them. It's when we make teaching relatable and intentional, that's when it really starts to make a difference. So this is what the early church was doing when they were getting together. They were teaching each other about God's word, and they were also sharing the good news of Jesus Christ. Habit number 2 is fellowship. The definition for fellowship is a friendly association, especially with people who share one's interest. In Acts 2:42, it says, all the believers were together and had everything in common. So they got along and they shared common interest. I really connect with people that I hang out with because Jesus is our common interest. If somebody invites me to go out and get wasted and stay out till 3 a.m., I'm going to pass on that because that doesn't interest me. The old me, maybe, but not this new creation. Those who believe in Jesus are united in the Spirit through him, and that unity is the foundation of fellowship. Let me read this again because that's good. Those who believe in Jesus are united in the Spirit through him, and that unity is the foundation of fellowship. We often think of fellowship as going out for a meal together, or sometimes even coffee right before Sunday service, but fellowship is and should be so much deeper than that. It means being part of a group, part of a body of people, and it's opposed to isolation and solitude. We covered that last week, and loneliness. The early church just didn't have fellowship, they were devoted to it. Verse 46, they broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all people. So they prayed, they worshiped together, and they also ate together, which leads us into the next habit. And that's habit number 3, breaking of bread. Most of the bread that was eaten back then was probably a lot harder than the fluffy loaves that you can get at Walmart today. In fact, during the Last Supper, scholars say that it was actually unleavened bread that was used, which was more like a cracker-like texture. So because of this, the bread actually had to be broken other than torn. The early church came together often for common meals, which included the breaking of bread. And this is what they do to observe communion, just as Jesus had instructed them to do. And spoiler alert, that's what we're going to be doing together here in a few minutes. Habit number 4 is prayer. When I often teach someone about the importance of prayer, I often ask them, I say, how do you expect to get close to someone if you don't communicate with them? In order to grow close to God, we've got to be talking with them. And that's exactly what prayer is. It's communication with God. And this is exactly what the early church was doing. But what was great is, what made it even better is they were doing it together as a group. And there's something about praying with a group of people that can really stir some good things up. Amen? One of the things that Samantha and I like to do when we have our connect groups is we'll take a chair, we'll set it right in the middle of the area that we're hanging out in, and then we invite someone to come up and sit in that chair and to share their prayer request. And man, I'm telling you, 10 times out of 10, you end up learning so much more about this person because they're just spilling their hearts, they're sharing their prayer requests with you, and then we all just take turns, we lay hands on them, we pray, and then we just repeat the process. And not only are you connecting with others, but God is in the center of it all, and there becomes this whole new level to the fellowship that you're having. So those are the four main things that occurred when the early church got together on a regular basis. They formed these holy habits and proved that being together is how the Lord designed us to be. Through personal experience, I've really learned that gathering together does actually have its benefits. For the longest time, I was that guy that I just wanted to come and get my Sunday service done and get out of there and go home. And I really didn't have a desire to connect with people at all. And Samantha tried talking me into joining a Connect group years back. And I remember I just did not want any part of it. I was too busy for all that mess. But I gave in, and we ended up joining a group that was focused on having a godly marriage. And just connecting with everyone in that group was awesome, because we really started to learn more about each other than just your normal passing by that you would get on a Sunday morning. And we've been in several groups since then. And looking back, it's easy to see how just gathering in those Connect groups is such a benefit, not only for us, but for everybody in the group. Our latest Connect group has also been amazing. I mean, we're doing all the above, and it's our desire to keep growing. But you know what's interesting, and I think the timing of this makes for a great illustration for this specific message this morning, but things really started to happen where we couldn't meet as often, and we fell out of rhythm, kind of like how we were clapping, and that's how our Connect group has been going. And man, you can surely tell the difference. You can tell the difference through all of us. Life happened, situations come up, and there's some drifting apart that we feel it happens. But because of this, it's good because we all can really see the importance and the difference of staying in a good rhythm. Church, we absolutely need each other. And this is not a commercial to join a Connect group, but it just so happens we're having sign-ups, so check that out on your way out. But I'm telling you that we need to be doing everything that verse 42 says with other believers in order to make it in this dark world. And just don't hear this and forget about it, because I know how some of you can be. I know what you're thinking. I don't need anyone else. I can do it all by myself. I don't need a church or anybody else around the church that's part of it. Well, let me know how that goes for you, because I've tried it and it doesn't end well. Pride stirs up those thoughts, while bitterness just digs in deeper roots. The term one another appears over 100 times in the New Testament. God wants us to be together and do life together. And for the most part, we all are doing it right now. We gather here every Sunday morning, and that's a good habit or a rhythm to be in, but think about this. On a Sunday morning, you come in, you talk to some people, you listen to music, you may even clap along, you sit down, you listen to someone speak, you stand back up, you hear some more music, and then you leave. Is that a good rhythm to be in? Is it spiritually healthy? Are these good habits or are they bad habits? And I'm not trying to trash the entire Sunday service, but when you personally come in here, are you just going through the motions just to get Sunday out of the way and go back home and watch TV? Or are you taking part in much more, such as teaching, fellowship, communion, breaking of bread, same thing, and prayer? Your week has about 168 hours. If Sunday service is 1 hour, what are you doing with the 167? Verse 46, every day they continue to meet together in the temple courts. How do we do every day? I find this specific verse very convicting. I have a family, a ministry, a job, other obligations. How am I supposed to do every day like the early church did? In case you're wondering, I don't have the answer for that. I really don't. But it really gets me thinking, how much an effort am I personally making through 1 week? The early church was absolutely committed to these practices, these habits that we're talking about, and they found a good rhythm to keep pressing forward with one another. Church, this is what I'm talking about. Are we, this group that's here right now, are we in a good rhythm together, not by yourselves, but together as a church. Think about that turn sign or that turn signal example that I just talked about earlier. Is teaching, fellowship, breaking bread, and prayer something that you just do out of habit? Or is it something that you think about, you just sit there and you slowly process it and then eventually just forget about it? So as I close this morning, I want to suggest a challenge for this upcoming week. And it's hopefully to get you in a good rhythm and to create a good habit. You guys ready? Some of you guys are sweating right now. So I want to challenge each and every one of you to pick one person that is sitting next to you and pray with them 3 times this week. So you can do Monday, Wednesday, and Friday if that's easiest for you. And notice I didn't say pray for them, I said pray with them. It adds that extra level to the fellowship there. It could be over the phone. Don't text because that's easy to, hey, okay, it's easy to get by, but call them, even make a meal, break bread together, get together and pray with each other, okay? So I want you to tap that person right now, look at them and say, hey, I'm going to pray with you. Go ahead. You got somebody? All right, do it again. Say, seriously, I'm going to pray with you. You got it? All right, at this time, I'm going to have Doc come up and play some music, and we're going to break bread together. So here at Faith Covenant Fellowship, we have open communion, which basically means if you are a believer in Jesus, you are more than welcome to come up here and join us as we remember him. In a few minutes, the ushers will release you row by row, and we just ask you to come up and grab the elements. Keep in mind that the cups are double stacked, the juice is on top, and the bread is on the bottom. After you get these elements, take them back to your seat and wait. Don't take the communion quite yet. We're going to take them together as a church family, okay? Ushers. at the Last Supper, while they were eating, Jesus took the bread, and when he had given thanks, he broke it. Just like we talked about, he broke the bread and gave it to his disciples, saying, "Take and eat. This is my body." This bread represents the body of Jesus, the bread of life. His body that was broken for us. His body was beaten and scratched, whipped, cut, punched, slapped, spit on. The crown of thorns forced on his head. The hands and feet took the nails that hung him on that cross to painfully hang for us. So as we take this bread, let's think about that. Have that vision in your mind, how his body was broken for us. Let's take the bread. After the bread, Jesus then took the cup, and when he had given thanks, he gave it to the disciples, saying, "Drink from it, all of you. This is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins." Because of the wounds, his horrific wounds that his body suffered, the blood of Jesus literally poured out as he hung on that cross. Jesus was the ultimate sacrifice, and God did this to his only begotten Son for the forgiveness of our sins. As we take this cup, let's remember that because of his blood, we are free and forgiven. Let's pray. Father, thank you so much for giving us your Son, Jesus. Without him, we would be nothing, but because of him, we are forgiven. I also want to thank you for our time this morning, and thank you for what you have taught us in this message. Lord, please give us the wisdom to identify unhealthy habits and the strength to change them. Give us sweet fellowship with others this week, and encourage us to practice the rhythm of gathering together so that you may add to the number of those who are being saved. It's in Jesus' name that we thank you and we praise you, Lord. Amen.
Jealous for me, love's like a hurricane. I am a tree bending beneath the weight of his wind and mercy. When all of a sudden I am unaware of these afflictions eclipsed by glory, and I realize just how beautiful you are and how great your affections are for me. Sing with me, church. He loves us. Oh, how he loves us. Oh, how he loves us. Oh, how he loves. You may be dismissed. Have a great week.